In my previous video, I detailed my thoughts about the forthcoming Renters Reform Act, that's if it ever does get through Parliament, and exactly what I think about this ridiculous bill. And I also detailed the grounds for possession, including if the property is being repossessed by the banks, because we need to make sure that the banks are covered, don't we, bless their cotton socks. In addition to that, there could be grounds for possession under something called a superior lease. But what exactly is a superior lease? That is a lease that has a higher authoritative position than the lease granted to the tenant or signed before the lease that has been granted to the tenant. For example, if you buy a flat anywhere in the UK, nearly all flats are leasehold, and you either receive a new lease direct from the freeholder if you're buying new, or the existing lease will be assigned to you from the previous leaseholder if you are buying a resale flat. And there are terms and conditions in that lease, and if you breach those terms and conditions, your lease could be forfeited. And in that position, if you are the leaseholder of a flat and you rent it out, if you breach your lease and that lease is forfeited, then that is grounds for the freeholder to evict the tenants. But where else can it apply? If I were going to play devil's advocate and pick holes in it, as I like to do, then I could say that, for example, if the owner, mortgage payer, landlord of a property wanted to give themselves a little bit of wiggle room if the Renters Reform Bill does pass, then what they could do is they could rent their property not to a tenant but to an SPV. And in order to sidestep any allegations by the court that this is done to evade the law, the SPV could be in the name of a family member of family or a friend or a total stranger, and it would be that SPV, a specific company formed specially for that purpose, that will then rent out the property to the tenant. The landlord could rent out the property to the company as low as they wanted, and at any point, if that company that then rents the property to the tenant should be struck off, go into liquidation for not paying their tax, not filing their papers, or for any other reason, that lease between the freeholder and the SPV is a superior lease to the lease between the SPV and the tenant, and the freeholder, mortgage payer, stroke landlord would, under the bill, have grounds to evict the tenant. It would be very, very difficult for them to close this loophole, because it would then mean that nearly all of the flats in the country would be unmortgageable for buy to let, because they could not close one loophole without the consequence being that the other one is closed as well. And that is a very difficult one. As I said, if there were to be any Renters Reform Bill, it should have been about improving the standard of housing, improving the situation for tenants or landlords who have problems, to ensure that incoming landlords are fully aware of health and safety, and not just virtue signalling knee-jerk reactions that make matters worse. They have exacerbated the housing problem. They have penalised many innocent, hard-working and honourable landlords because of a handful who may not be so. The same applies to tenants, because we only hear about the minuscule minority who are a problem, not the millions who are never any problem whatsoever. It is the government that has created this mess. And once again, may I remind you that over the last few years, the vast majority of issues, dangerous issues, even fatal issues that have appeared, tragedies that have happened in housing have been in properties owned by institutional investors or housing associations. They are the real culprits. They are the ones that are pushing this agenda. They are the ones who stand to benefit, and I'm sure that nobody in government is benefiting from houses being taken out of the hands of private investors and put into the hands of institutions. I'm sure that's not the case. That's just me being paranoid. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you're a solicitor and you are familiar with Superior Lease, or you've had a case, you have any case law with regards to Superior Lease, I'd love to hear from you, because I'd like to see where this is going to go. That's all for this video. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now, and I'll see you next time.